Night story. My husband is a doctor, and once, many years ago, he got a job with a foundation where he had to do medical brigades in rural areas. The good part was that they paid well. The bad part was that the campaigns lasted a long time, and we had to keep moving from town to town. Once he was assigned to a Vereda rural settlement, near Larica. The closest place we found to move into was a big house on the outskirts, near the highway, practically alone in that area. But within a week we had to move out of there in a hurry. The house faced a farm with beautiful, green land that in the morning gave off an atmosphere of tranquility and freshness that I loved. Plus, there were many plants and fruit trees which made me even happier. But I don't know why, by the second day of being there, I felt something weird was in that house. My husband would leave every morning and return as night fell. When he had to go further away, he'd return the next day. So, I spent a lot of time alone in that house. It was one of those days. I was there organizing some papers when I felt someone knock on the door. It was around 4 in the afternoon. I ran out to see who it was and there was no one there. But as I was at the door, I felt someone run past behind me in the living room, as if from the hallway to the patio. But they were small footsteps and it felt like there were several of them. That time, I wanted to think it was a cat. When my husband arrived, I told him and he said the same thing. That's probably a little animal. It's normal for these things to happen around here, he told me. On the third day, I was leaving the room for the kitchen around 10 a.m. The sun was illuminating the hallway, and when you looked out into the patio, the shadows stretched along the wall, almost reaching the first room. Well, I'm passing by that part of the room when I see the shadow of a person pass by the wall right next to me. The shadow was large and then disappeared, as if someone had come out of the last room and gone out the patio door. I remember that time I really stopped to analyze the situation and walked out to the patio, trying to find a logical explanation. I even passed under the doorframe several times to see how far the shadow reached. And the only way for a shadow to reach the kitchen was if it was from a person much taller than me. An animal couldn't do it. My husband told me it was probably some bird or that I had imagined it because I was scared of being alone there. That's what he told me. Until one day the same thing happened to him. On the fourth day he came home early around 5 p.m. He immediately took a shower and lay down on the bed. I was in the patio gathering laundry when I saw him run out desperately in a towel, swearing a bunch of vulgarities with a pale face. I was clearly alarmed. What happened to you? And he tells me he had lain face down on the bed looking at the wall, and practically right after he felt someone sit on the other side. He thought it was me, and without turning around he stretched out his hand and someone stroked it several times. At that moment he turned his body to supposedly hug me, but there was no one there. He was alone in the room. I couldn't have been there because I was in the patio gathering laundry. See? I told you there's something. We have to move out of this house. He didn't say yes or no. He just stayed quiet as if trying to find some explanation, but there wasn't one. Worse was that night. We supposedly went to sleep with all the lights on because of the fear we had, and the power went out around 10 p.m. Everything went dark. The hallway was only half lit when a car passed on the road in front and the lights reflected through the window. What I did was cling to him in bed. We covered ourselves up despite the heat and stayed there. Suddenly the trouble starts. First, we heard what sounded like someone dragging a stick along the terrace railing. That was a taka 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 taka, but paused. The sound came and went, disappeared for a while, and about 5 minutes later it returned. He and I just squeezed each other's hands, but neither of us said anything. After a while, a stronger blow was heard, as if someone was hitting a tree with the back of an axe. The blows came one after another. There, my husband got up. That's some jerk messing around, he said. I remember he stood up, all emboldened, with me behind him praying the Lord's Prayer. He opened the window a bit, stuck his head out and started yelling, "Cut it out. Stop fucking around. Respect people who have to work later." He said a bunch of vulgarities I won't describe here, but according to him, that works to scare away witches. Curiously, things calmed down and we didn't hear anything else. We thought we could finally rest. But once we were asleep is when the worst part comes. I'm a very light sleeper, so the slightest noise immediately alerts me. And he has the habit of getting up to pee in the early morning, so he always wakes me up when he gets up. I remember I felt him start to move in the bed. He came close to my face and passed a hand through my hair. That hand felt ice cold, so much that it made my skin crawl. Then he turned over, stood up, and walked to the bathroom. Right then, as I watched him in the dim light opening the door, I sat on the edge of the bed to wait for him to come out so I could go in. The power still hadn't come back, so the only thing you could see was a black figure that blurred with the rest of the darkness in the room. I thought it was weird that he had been standing in there for like 2 minutes and I still hadn't heard him peeing. "What's taking you so long, honey?" I asked. "I'm getting some water, I'm thirsty," He just cleared his throat and kept standing there not moving. From where I was, I only saw his silhouette there in front of the toilet. I remember I got up to approach him, and at that moment I feel a man under the bed let out a horrible scream, and the bed starts shaking from side to side as if a person was desperately trying to get out from under it. I also screamed and ran for the bedroom door that led to the hallway, but I was so scared I couldn't manage to open it. All I did was press myself against the door and cry out of desperation, feeling the bed jumping and my husband doing nothing to protect me. Right then, about a minute later, the power came back on. And I see that the one still trying to get out from under the bed was my husband, who said he didn't know how he had ended up stuck under there. At that moment, I lift my gaze towards the bathroom. The light was on, and I see, from the reflection in the mirror, a person with their back to me. I didn't know how to tell my husband that there was something or someone there. The words wouldn't come out. Everything was trembling. Somehow, I managed to say, "In the bathroom." And when he went to see what was there, the mirror suddenly cracked as if someone had hit it with a hammer. By that time it was almost 4 a.m. At that hour we started packing our things to get out of there. We weren't going to stay and find out what was happening. By 8 a.m. we had everything loaded into a little car. My husband says he found out from a man who worked on the farm behind us, and he says, "In that house there's something." Several people who have moved in have found buried things in the patio. Dolls pierced with pins and witchcraft stuff. People last a month at most because they're always bothered. The owner, since he says he doesn't believe in those things, never says anything to the people who rent it.